So are you really being tunneled every single game? Or do you just have a loose definition of what tunneling is? Or maybe you really are being tunneled every single damn game, and then why are killers doing this? Why are you being camped every single game as well? What's going on? Where does this come from? Is it a valid strategy? And do we have our definitions confused? Let's talk about it. Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and you're doing well. Tunneling and camping has been a problem in Dead by Daylight since the inception, and there is a good reason for why this has happened and, why this has continued throughout the years. I just want to do one quick plug. You guys are the second channel. I love you guys, but one quick plug just because it's really damn awesome. G Fuel has always been sponsoring me. They've been sending me tons of amazing product, and from now until tomorrow 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there's a BOGO sale going on, and I just want to show them some love because G Fuel has always showed me some love. If you ever been curious about G Fuel, or you actually want to try G Fuel, or you just want to support me, there's a buy one get one free sale going on right now. A tub's about 35 bucks. It lasts forever. I've never actually finished one of these tubs, so if you're looking for a really awesome product, check out G Fuel. Link down below. You can use my link there, and a big thank you. So let's take it all the way back to 2016. I sound like a unk talking about this, but back in my days of DBD, tunneling and camping was a pretty valid strategy. This is how you were kind of meant to play Dead by Daylight. It's why perks like Insidious in the game exist in the game in the first place. You were meant to catch a survivor, and pretty much if you got caught, this was GG's. You waited around, you looked if anyone was coming. If they did, you stopped them with a good grab, and you put them on a hook. That's how DBD was. It was a game of cat and mouse, and if the cat caught the mouse, it was game over for them. This was one of the reasons why I significantly started to play Trapper a lot, because a little scummy thing that you could do with Trapper was literally place a trap under the person's foot. And what would happen is obviously two things. Someone would run in for the save, they would get trapped, or, well, I guess three things, or they try to get the save, it bugs, they get the save, and then they get trapped. And then obviously if they disarm the trap, it took forever, and you would automatically know they're going for the save, so you just walked on back. So this mentality happened quite often, and it happened so much so that eventually a perk was introduced to combat, tunneling specifically, because that was more so the issue. Camping was one thing, and it always was an issue, but tunneling was something that people really didn't like. So a new perk was introduced with Bill, and that perk was Borrow Time. Essentially, if you save somebody, not only you, but the person you save get a little bit of borrow time if you were to take an extra hit. And this was very infuriating to killers because borrowed time was super strong, because no matter what, that person would get the save. Eventually that got changed to what we know is today, and BT is pretty much base. So tunneling itself, the idea of tunneling, has definitely been combated quite a lot. Let's talk about camping as well. As I said, camping was a feature with Insidious. It was heavily relied on. Eventually, as time went on, people realized that camping is not necessarily a good idea. Dead by Daylight tried to really force your way to go to other survivors. Don't camp, because if you do camp, they're going to get all the gens done by that time. They extended, how long it took for you to bleed out. And because of that, if you camped, you stuck around to ensure you get that kill, what ends up happening is all the gens get popped and you still lose the game. So why is it that people still tunnel and camp? Well, if you're more new to the game, this is still a valid strategy to you, because you think, I caught somebody, I gotta make sure I secure my kill. It's very scary and intimidating to leave someone on the hook, because survivors are gonna run in to save somebody. So tunneling or camping works out well. If they do save them, go after them again, because they're going to die really quick. Or if they're, just on the hook sitting there, then why would I leave? What the issue is when you start going into higher levels and higher MMR, it is a really, really bad idea to do so. But people, unfortunately, think this is the right thing to do. So then there's a little bit of, in lack of better words, a skill issue, right? You think this is a good thing to do, but eventually you realize you're losing your games. So that's where tunneling and camping really stems from. So why is it that people still tunnel and camp so much in today's day and age, especially so when borrowed time is pretty much base kit? And if you camp somebody, there's an anti-camp meter. It goes up and they can unhook themselves. Why do people do this? Well, there's a couple of different scenarios. The first one is because the killer is indeed salty. Now listen, I'm a killer main, I get it. Sometimes someone loops you over and over. They teabag, they BM you, whatever the case may be. So sometimes killers do get salty and they really just want to get that person, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And as we mentioned in our video previously, sometimes when you get a really bad game, you might project that onto your next game. You go into the next game and you just play ultra sweaty, tunnel and camp everybody. That mentality gets continued and continued and continued, and so on and so forth. So for a lot of killers, this is one of the main reasons why they do tunnel and camp. Now, in other situations, tunneling and camping can 100% be a validated strategy. For example, if you know there's 4 survivors left, right? One of these survivors are on the hook right now. A survivor just ran in and unhooked them right in front of you. There's no pallets around, but there's only one generator left. This person's injured. You know, if you wait out that BT time, you knock them down, they're dead. And that is monumental, because having 4 people working on one generator at the end of the game compared to 3 is huge. So you might as well get them out, or you might decide to camp. Let's say there's 3 people remaining. The exit gates are being powered. You manage to knock someone down. You put them on a hook. Why on earth would you leave them? It doesn't necessarily make sense. You just stick around because their timer doesn't go up and secure your kill. So in certain situations, tunneling and camping definitely works. And these are just basic examples. There's tons of other examples on why there can be some good use to it, and that's why in higher MMRs you might see it a little bit more often. And unfortunately for survivors, this might happen to you every single game, so it feels that every single killer does this. At the end of the day, I think when it comes down to tunneling and camping, it's a much deeper rooted problem, and the only way that's going to be fixed is by looking at the core issues of Dead by Daylight. Something like why generators are the way they are, because if we're really diving down the rabbit hole, one of the reasons killers camp and tunnel is because they feel that they have the lack of gen pressure. However, it's the survivors' jobs to work on the generators. Now, for survivors, it's pretty easy just to work on one gen, go to the next, go to the next, go to the next, and if they're all next to each other, why on earth would you not do it? So there's a lot of deeper rooted issues with this, and we can talk about this for hours, but until Dead by Daylight looks at generators, moves their placements, and, makes the game slow down completely, I feel that tunneling and camping will never necessarily see that ever leaving the game of DBD. The next issue with tunneling and camping and why people think it happens so much is because the terms are used so loosely. For example, you can just be running around, you get hit, you get put on the hook, the killer goes ahead, knocks somebody else down very quickly, puts them on a hook, comes back to you because you just got on hook, and goes after you. It's just a smart play in a lot of those situations. They literally went after somebody else and then came back around, and especially if it's an unsafe unhook or whatever the case may be, or they're trying to get more pressure, it just makes sense. If you're trying to win, you're just doing what you gotta do. The same way survivors are just trying to do their generators. They go from one gen to the next, the killer puts someone on a hook, put someone else on a hook, comes back for you. Sometimes when I play killer, I do this as well. I go for one person, then I go for the next. By the time I come back around, there's a save, so I go for that person again. By the time I come back around again, it just snowballs and it works. And again, these are issues that are deeply rooted in DBD, and it rewards the player for playing this way. So a lot of the times, survivors can often get confused with the terminology. For example, again, if a survivor is placing a killer is placing a bear trap next to someone that's on the hook, someone might say he's camping me or he's patrolling me, but in reality, you're just placing a trap. So with the mixed terminology, the idea that this is the right thing to do, and in some situations it actually being the right thing to do, this is why we often hear people say I'm being tunneled, I'm being camped, and this is why a lot of the times this seems like a big issue, when in reality I don't necessarily think tunneling and camping is as bad as it used to be all the way back in 2016, when that was literally the way you were meant to play. Now, of course, it still is an issue in DBD. I'm not saying it's not, and I think again DBD would have to look at the bigger picture if they ever want to solve some of these things. But with introductions to BT based kits and the anti-camping meter that we have, and the slow reduction when it comes down to gen stopping perks, etc., I think they're really trying to figure out a way to stop this. And I think as the years go on, eventually there will be a time where it's a lot more tame. But there you go. Hopefully that answers the question of, tunneling, camping, and the difference between what it actually is and what it's not. And I'd love to hear your comments down below. I forgot to mention throughout this entire video, and if you watch this from my main channel or you're seeing this from the second channel, I am giving away some G Fuel. G Fuel, right now, giving it away. All you need to do is to leave a comment down below. I also forgot to pick the DLC code winner last time because I'm stupid. So the winner is right here. You have about 24 hours to contact or just reply to our comment. That's all you need to do, and I'll get your information. Follow me on Twitter if you're the winner. That's the easiest way, or join our Discord, whatever the case may be, and I'll get you your DLC code. But that's gonna do it for me. As always, I'm the king. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.